Hey everybody, this is Russ from Retro Game Core. Today I've got a fun video. I'm going to show you how to use Wiimotes, like the original Wiimotes for the Nintendo Wii, on your emulated systems through Dolphin, both on PC as well as on Android. Now, it is possible to mimic the Wiimote inputs in the Dolphin emulator both on Android and PC, and essentially all you do is just map these buttons and motion controls to the buttons and sticks on your device. And that can work with certain games, but for others it can be a real pain. Think about something like Wii Sports, that's something that just was really made for the Wiimote, and so I'm going to show you how to get that up and running here today. And it really doesn't require a lot of equipment other than the Wiimote itself and a couple other accessories. We will get into that in this video. In addition, you will also need a USB sensor bar, and the type of bar that you want is going to depend on whether or not you're going to be using it on PC or on Android, and we'll get into that as well. And honestly, I've had a lot of fun just testing this over the past week or so. In fact, every evening as I sit down to test it out, I've been looking forward to it. And one of the main things is that I've got this new controller here, which allows me to put the Wiimote right inside, and then I can play emulated versions of things like Rock Band and Guitar Hero. I'll show you how to do that in this video too. It's pretty awesome. And so the way I see it, that yes, it's not necessary to use a Wiimote in order to play some of these games, but man, it really does capture the experience. And if you've got this stuff laying around, you might as well try it out as well. And so without any further delay, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, let's start by talking about all the different controllers and accessories that you may or may not need. Now, I don't have everything here, but I've got quite a few things to play around with. Number one is obviously going to be the Wiimote, and I think this is a launch Wiimote, like I got it back in 2006 when I bought this on day one. But it really doesn't matter as long as you've got any sort of original Wiimote, and I think some of those knockoffs will also work as well. Now, for the purpose of this video, I did pick up this one, which has got the Wii Motion Plus inside of it. I think this is from like the Wii U era. It cost me $30 on eBay. This will give you more granular controls, and I think it's necessary for certain games. I think maybe one of the Zelda games as well as like Wii Sports Resort. However, if you've also got, one of these old Motion Plus adapters like I do, you can always just attach this to your device as well. You lock it in, and so this will also work too. As far as accessories, I think the main one that you'll want in terms of controls will be the nunchuck adapter. Now, this one is going to be super important for games like Super Mario Galaxy. There also is the classic controller, but honestly, this one is so easy to emulate on modern handhelds and controllers that I don't really think this one is super necessary, although I do still find it very comfortable. So in terms of control schemes, that's all you're really going to need, but now let's talk about sensor bars, because you're going to need one of these two depending on which platform you're going to be playing on. This one here costs $8, and it's just a Wii sensor bar that has a USB adapter to it. I picked this one up on Amazon years ago. I'll leave one link down below, but yeah, it's going to be about $8, and it works really well with Dolphin. But bear in mind, this only works on the PC version of Dolphin, so if you're going to be using it on like a handheld PC like the Steam Deck or ROG Ally, or just your home computer. Now, if you're going to be playing on an Android-based device, say for example like a Retroid Pocket 5 or an AYN Odin, then you're going to want something like this. This is called the Mayflash Dolphin Bar. This one is more expensive, it costs $30 and is a lot more robust, but the thing about it is that it has multiple modes, and mode 3 in particular is what will work with Android. This one's also a little bit fancy because it's got an on and off switch, and you can also adjust whether or not it's going to be on the top or the bottom of your monitor. So this one I just recently picked up, and it does work well with Android-based handhelds. I'll show you how to do that. One other thing worth noting about this $8 one is that you actually don't need this if you want to play Wii games on PC. You can actually just use two different candles that are separated and underneath your computer. I'm not really sure if you want to do something like that, but yes, all you really need is two light sources. So candles will work, or you can spend $8 and not burn your house down. Okay, so let's get started with the PC version. I'm going to use my Lenovo Legion Go just because I have a nice big screen to work with, and so let's actually just do this live. So I've already got Dolphin loaded up, and it's just the most recent version, and you can see that I already have a game loaded as well. This is Resident Evil 4. And for this setup, we are going to use this sensor bar, and because this is USB-A, we will need a USB-C adapter to adapt to the Legion Go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the adapter here to plug it into the Legion Go, and because this is a little bit weird because I'm using a top-down angle, what I'm actually going to do is angle this up a little bit towards me. This will make it easier for me to actually point the Wiimote like this so you can see what's going on. So now that we have this plugged in, all you really have to do is just go into the controller section, and then right under here it'll say emulate the Wii's Bluetooth adapter. And what we want to set for here, for under Wii Remote 1, under emulated Wii Remote, we want to change it to real Wii Remote. Further down, there's also an option that says continuous scanning. Make sure that you turn that one on. And after that, we are good to go. So all I have to do at this point is just turn on my Wiimote, and I'm going to press that little scan button that we have here inside. And so this makes me think that maybe this isn't a launch Wiimote, because if I remember correctly, the old ones did not have this. You had to press 1 and 2 at the same time. Either way, we're going to press the red button here. It's now going to, have the continuous scanning in Dolphin, and it should pick up on this after a moment. And so right there, it just buzzed, and you can see that, yeah, now it's player 1. And you can do this with more than one Wiimote. So all you'd have to do here is for Wii Remote 2, also make this a Wii Remote, and then do the same pairing. So you can set up to 4 Wii Remotes at the same time. And really, that's all it takes when it comes to pairing this up. So I'm going to plug in my nunchuck adapter, and then let's start up Resident Evil 4. Okay, so now you can see that, yeah, I've got Resident Evil 4 going, and you can see I can move the Wiimote around. This is super awkward because of the angle that I'm using. When you're actually using it like with a television or a monitor, it's a lot easier to use. But right now, just because of the angle, yeah, it's a little bit weird. But you can see that, yeah, I can move Leon around, and then I can press the trigger button. I can, shoot a crow if I would like, or whatever. I can actually play this game. It's kind of crazy. And so all the motion controls are going to work. It's basically like playing on the Wii. And so this is super cool and very, very easy to set up on PC. Now on Android, it's a little bit more labor intensive, so that's what I want to show off next. So for our Android example, we're going to use the AYN Odin 2 portal. This one is a recent release, and it's super powerful. This is going to be able to play Wii games upscaled to like a 3 or a 4x resolution, basically all the way up to 4K. However, this one is Android-based, and so the setup is going to be a little bit different. So we're going to use the Dolphin version that's available on Android, and this is the most recent version. You can also see that I've already loaded up all of my games, so we are ready to actually connect this to a Wiimote at this point. And for Android, you're going to need this one. This is the Mayflash Dolphin bar that I mentioned earlier, and it is $30, but this is the one that's actually going to work with Android. And that's because this one has multiple modes, and one of those does interface directly with Android. I think I said earlier in the video that it's mode 3, but it's actually mode 4. I'll show you how to do that. Now this one is also USB-A, so you will need a USB-C adapter, and then from there you can plug it into your device. Now out of the box, when you first get it set up, it's going to be in mode 1, but you actually need it to be in mode 4, so set it over to mode 4 instead. And when it comes to actually connecting it, you've got a couple different options. You could just go into the main settings, go into Wii Input, and then here you could set up the Wii Remote to just be your real remote, just right here. This means that every game by default is going to expect your Wiimote, but you may not want to have that, especially with a handheld that has built-in controls. So by default, I'm going to keep it at emulated Wii Remote, and then I have it already set up with all these already mapped. So instead, what I want to do is on a per game basis, actually set up these that are going to use a real Wiimote. A good example here will be Dead Space Extraction. This one definitely is really hard to figure out the control scheme for it. It is better suited as like a light gun game, and so we're going to use a real Wiimote for this one. So what we want to do is set this up as a per game setting. So we're going to hold and long press here, and then under Edit Game Settings, we're going to have an option that says Wii Input. And within the Wii Input setting, you'll see that you have the Wii Remote right here, and now we can change it to the real remote. This means that anytime we start up this game, by default, it's going to expect the Wiimote itself. The next thing we want to do is actually pair this remote to the bar. So what we want to do here is press that sync button again. This is going to make the lights flash on the Wii Remote, and then we'll press sync on the Dolphin bar. It's going to take a moment, but you'll see that, yeah, it picked it up as player 1. It'll take a minute to make this light stop syncing, but after that, you're good to go. And you won't have to sync it every single time. It'll just know. So all you have to do is just turn on your Wiimote in the future. Now, Dead Space Extraction was one of those Wii Zapper games that had another attachment to it. I don't have that. So you were just going to use the nunchuck setup here. So I'm going to plug in the nunchuck, and now we are ready to actually play the game. And when you first start the game, there's one other thing you have to do, and you have to connect the Wiimote to Dolphin itself. It's just something you have to do the first time you start up a game. So what you want to do is swipe from the left until you bring up the contextual menu, and then go and hit Refresh Wii Remotes. You're going to get a pop-up here that says, is it okay for it to access? Hit OK. And then after that, you should feel a rumble. If you don't hit Refresh again, and then you may feel the rumble. I just felt it there. You'll even get an indication here that'll say that it's now connected. And so there we go. We've now got the Wiimote going here, and it's a little bit finicky. Again, it's just a really awkward angle, and it's not going to be like that when you're actually using it like on a monitor. But you can see that, yes, I can pick through my different profiles and actually start up a game. And so, yeah, I think that's pretty awesome to be able to play these games, just directly on a Wiimote like this. Again, it's really difficult to use this while talking. And again, this is a really weird kind of setup, but As you can see, yes, it's fully working, and I've had a lot of fun doing this. Obviously, I haven't been doing it directly like with a top-down setup like this. I've been angling it toward myself and like putting this on a dock, but yeah, it totally works. Another thing that's really nostalgic for me is that if you press the home button, it'll actually bring up the home menu, and so it really feels like you're using a small Nintendo Wii, and I think that's pretty awesome. So yeah, here we are with Dead Space Extraction, and I haven't seen this game in motion in like 10 years, and so this is really exciting for me, and I've got it running at a 3x upscale, so this is looking even better than the original. And it's also really cool to have these original controls. I think this is just super nostalgic, and so I'm really happy that I hung on to a lot of these older accessories because I never really thought I'd be able to use them on a handheld, but here we are. This game also had a lot of different unique inputs. So for example, I can use this thing to pull things by pressing the A button, and you can also rotate the Wiimote to use an alternative fire. So this is where you can load up your shot and then release it. And so there's a lot of different things that you can do here. And this is one of the reasons why this game is so hard to emulate with anything but the actual Wiimote controller. Now, another thing you can do with an Android-based handheld is dock it to a monitor or a TV like I'm doing here. I'm using the official AYN dock, but you can basically use any USB-C dock with video out, so it doesn't actually require this one. One thing worth noting is that if you get the Odin 2 Portal grip, it's not going to fit in the dock. Unfortunately, you'll have to take it out of the grip in order to put it in the dock. But this dock does have all of the features that I want. So it's got HDMI out, it also has the power in to be able to charge the device at the same time, and then it has multiple USB-A interfaces. And so in this example, one USB plug is connected to my Wii sensor bar, and then I have another one actually going digital audio out into my stereo. And so when I'm playing rhythm games like Beatles Rock Band, I can actually do that in my stereo setup, and so it sounds really great. Either way, that's all it really takes when it comes to setting up a Wiimote on an Android-based device. You have to, get this specific bar, you have to set it up so that it's in mode 4, then sync it up, and then also, once you get it running, you have to make sure that you refresh your Wii remotes, and after that, you'll be good to go. And there are a lot of Wii games that really depended on that Wiimote input, especially something, like Wii Sports. Now, a 2-player setup is also very easy and intuitive, so what I like to do here is a mixture between global and per-game settings. So if I go into Wii Input, you can see that under Wii Remote 2, I've already got it set up to be the real Wii Remote. And that's because anytime I'm playing a 2-player game, I'm always going to be using, a Wiimote. And so I'm never going to actually do a 2-player game on the controls themselves. And so that one's pretty easy to set up as a global configuration. From there, I can then make my per game configuration. So if we go down to Wii Sports, for example, I'll do Edit Game Settings. And if I go into Wii Input, you can see that for this one, I do have it set for the Remote 1 to be a real Wii Remote. And you can see that it's a per game save because it's in a bold font compared to the others. And so this means that yes, this game will play with Wiimotes and it's already set up for 2-player gameplay. And so I've already got this one set up as player 1, and at that point all I'd have to do is get my other Wiimote and then actually sync this one to this new Dolphin bar. So I'm going to sync it again, and then this time it should pick up here in a moment. I forgot you also have to press that sync button first, but after I press that, yeah, you can see it went right to player 2. So now I have player 1 and player 2 already synced up here. So when I start the game and I refresh my Wii remotes, I'll have both of them going at once. And so that's why I've been playing multiplayer games like Wii Sports. In fact, my 2 kids have been playing a lot of Wii Sports lately. My youngest actually takes tennis lessons, and he's been beating the crap out of my older son, and he rarely beats him at anything. And so I've really been enjoying this just to see the tables turning. And it's also kind of cool because, back in like 2006, 2007 during the Wii Sports craze, these kids weren't even born yet. And so it's kind of cool to introduce them to that. And even though, yes, the graphics are a little bit janky compared to today's standards, they're still having a lot of fun with it. And it's also upscaled up to like 4K. So it still looks nice and crisp. Okay, so now let's talk about the fun stuff. So this thing is the Hyper Strummer from Hyperkin. And I saw this at CES last month, and I've been out of the loop when it comes to these, plastic instruments, over the years. But they are re-releasing the original Wii controller that they used to have back in the day. Now, this is an update, like it has a new PCB inside of it, but it is the same molding that they used previously. They've just, made new shells for it. And I know there's a whole world of this stuff, like Clone Hero and like, these really nice PDP guitars that cost like $130. And, I know there are people who prefer like one over the other and whatnot. This is not meant for like the competitive space. Like this is not for like people who are deep into Clone Hero, but rather just somebody who wants to recapture some of that spirit of playing these old rhythm games. And I think this one appeals to me the most because all you do is just put your Wiimote inside and all of these games are going to work. And so once you've got it paired up like we just did, it's just a matter of now using this accessory to play those other games. And it's been a lot of fun. Now, I'm not going to defend this thing at all. Like, I think that anybody who wants to actually play competitively, they're not really going to enjoy this. This is more for just kind of recreating those moments. I have definitely had misinputs with this. Like, these buttons feel a little bit stiff, and sometimes they don't actually react the way that I would expect them to. And so I'm not really sure if this is a good guitar controller. I don't think it really is. It's more just a throwback. And I know that Hyperkin is working on like an updated one that's going to be a lot better or whatever, but this is what we have to work with right now. You can also buy these on eBay. They sell them used, you can get them for usually around like $60 to $100 depending on the condition. But there's always going to be a risk because some of those plastics have aged over time, and so you never know what you're going to get. This at least is brand new and you can get it on Amazon, and if you don't like it, you can always return it. But I will say that it is quite expensive. I think it's like $75, and I don't know, I paid for that and I'm getting a lot of fun out of it, but that is pretty extravagant for just a plastic toy. As far as the materials themselves, I think they're fine. The buttons are just a little bit cheap feeling. It does have a little controller right here for an analog stick, and then another button. I'm not really sure what this one does, but this is like start and select. It also has a whammy bar, and it feels pretty good. It reminds me a lot of the Les Paul that came with the Guitar Hero 3 for the Xbox 360, which is a game that I owned. I still have that older controller. Same thing with this drum bar. It's nice and clicky. I never liked the mushy ones that came with the Rock Band guitars, so I prefer something that's really clicky like this. Now on the neck, we've got our 5 buttons, and like I mentioned, they're a little bit stiff, and it's hard to explain. Like, they feel a little bit cheap and wobbly. They do go down, but there are times when it feels like they don't register. This yellow button in particular is one that gives me a little bit of trouble. Like, I really have to mash down on it to make sure that it registers. So again, these buttons are definitely not something for the competitive space, but this is not how I played Rock Band and Guitar Hero back in the day. You got to remember, these games came out in 2007 or so. I was 27 years old. So I just remember going over to friends' houses, there's always kind of drinking involved, and we would just have a party night where we'd play all these games and whatnot. And so this reminds me of those moments, not to the point of trying to get a high score on any leaderboard or anything else like that, but rather just enjoying my time with my friends. And so I don't really mind that this thing is not competitive. Again, it's all about the nostalgia factor. And so, yeah, it's expensive and you can probably find better deals out there. The PDP controller, it's I think $130. So that's going to give you a better experience. This is not going to replace that, but it is a nice cheap alternative, at least in hindsight. Now, the way you set this up is you have a compartment here in the back. So you're going to open this thing up, and then underneath you will find that, yeah, there's a connector right here for the Wiimote. So really all you have to do is just take the Wiimote that you've already paired up, and you just put it in here. You kind of smash the control part inside, and then you push it down until it clicks into place. And this is a little bit stiff. Again, it kind of feels a little bit cheap, but you can kind of push it in, and then you're good to go. And so this is what it's going to look like on the other side. And so you can still access all your buttons if you need to, but you can just use these buttons instead and it'll all work fine. Okay, so let's try out a rhythm game. Let's do Lego Rock Band. So here, what I'm going to do is make sure that I've got it set up for the Wii remote. So I'm going to go in here, edit game settings, and then under Wii input, I want to make sure that yes, it's already set up for a real Wii remote. From there, all I have to do is actually just start up the game, and then same thing like we did with Dead Space, where I'm going to have to go in here and then refresh the Wii remotes. And I can already feel it was rumbling right then, and so now I'm good to go. And the nice thing about these rhythm games is that it does not matter about the sensor bar at all. You're not going to be pointing it at anything. So you can actually just kind of put this to the side. You don't really need it at all. You can just focus on the gameplay itself. Okay, and so here I am in Lego Rock Band, and I've already gone into quick play here, but I can go through and try out some of these games. Now, I've never been the best at any of these games. I actually played the drums most of the time, like during those parties and whatnot, but I'm okay at the guitar and the bass, even though it's funny because I've been playing guitar for like 30 years, but this is not the same kind of skill set. And so I used to be a player who played on hard, but nowadays I've been playing on medium. It's going to take some time to get back to where I used to be. Either way, yeah, that's about it when it comes to setting up these games. It's pretty simple. Again, it's just a matter of connecting the Wii remote, making sure that it's working with your emulator device, and then from there it's just connecting the adapter and everything should work. Now, one thing I would recommend in any of these rhythm games is go into the options section. Within here, you can calibrate your game. And so this will help, depending on whatever device you're using, or if you got it plugged in via a dock, you can go through here and calibrate everything. And you can see that I have quite a bit of delay here with my audio calibration. And so you'll have to adjust things according to whatever device that you're using and whatever input lag that you're getting. You can see here that I have 38 milliseconds, but it's crazy. With the Guitar Hero games, it basically says that everything's fine, and so it doesn't introduce a delay. And so again, this will be one of those things that you will have to tweak depending on the device and whatever setup that you're using. Now, another thing worth noting is that not every single game is going to play. In particular, the first Rock Band is not going to play with this setup because that one I think requires an actual Rock Band guitar. All the other ones will work fine. Rock Band 2 and 3, even Beatles Rock Band, that one's fine. Same thing with Guitar Hero, any of these will work fine. Now, another thing to bear in mind is that as far as I can tell, on Android at least, you're going to be stuck with the stock songs. Now, there used to be all these DLC releases. I remember spending a lot of money on the Xbox 360 to get like my favorite songs and albums. Now, there is a way to install that DLC, and there's a bunch of websites out there. It's a pretty advanced topic, but I will say that I was not able to get it working on Android. Now, these DLC files will be in a WAD file format, and you can see that there is an option to install a WAD. The problem is that those WADs are really big, and what happens is that once you install the WAD and load it into the system memory, when you try to start up a game, it's going to say that you're out of storage on your device. And within Dolphin on Android, there's no real way to manage your system files. You can actually load up your Wii system menu. You can see it right here. You can load into the Wii menu, go into your data management, but it'll say that you don't have any additional space. And on the PC version, you're able to actually expand your storage to be able to accommodate the size of the WADs, and then whatever you need to create a save game as well. And unfortunately, that just doesn't work as far as I can tell. So there might be a way to actually get these DLC songs working, but I wasn't able to figure it out. Again, I've just been testing this for about a week or so. If you have any tips, let me know in the comments down below, because I think that would be awesome as well. As it stands, there are hundreds of songs that you can play just within these stock games themselves, so I've been very happy, but I can see myself getting bored of them in the next month or so. But probably the biggest draw for me has not been the fact that I've been having a lot of fun playing this, but that I've been able to introduce these types of games to my children. Like I mentioned before, my kids were born after the whole Wii era, and so they never really saw us playing any of these plastic instruments, which is a shame because I have friends who had older kids, who actually were around during that time, and they still, to this day, have really great memories of playing these games, and they are really in tune to music, and I think that's part of it. And the one thing I've noticed over the past week of testing is that my kids have gotten really drawn to this idea of playing these rhythm games on these plastic controllers. And so this has been the biggest surprise for me, is that I'm able to introduce these songs to my kids, and they're having a lot of fun with it. They like certain artists. They like the Beatles, they like Queen, there's a couple other artists as well, and a lot of them are represented, especially in Lego Rock Band, and so they've been really enjoying it. And it is kind of silly that it took me actually trying it out on Odin 2 Portal to unlock all of this fun, and so this is why I wanted to make this video in the first place, is because I was not expecting to enjoy this as much as I did, and I felt like, hey, I need to tell other people about this because it really didn't take that much work to get it up and running, and now that I do have it up and running, my kids are loving it. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Now that you're able to actually play with a Wiimote on your handheld device or maybe on your home PC, what games are you going to plan on playing and why? Like, what control schemes are you missing out on when it comes to emulation? For my part, I'm probably going to be sticking to the old classics like Wii Sports and all of my Guitar Hero games, but I've been really enjoying it so far. As always, thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you found this helpful, and we will see you next time. Happy gaming.